Wow, you guys are all gluttons for punishment, eh? No, that's good. I recognize not all of you have kids or grandkids, but, in the spirit of, it takes a village, then this is good. I'm glad you stuck around for this segment, parenting. Hopefully you'll find this really beneficial and helpful. So, my heart goes out to Christian parents and grandparents. You've worked hard. As a Christian or a parent or grandparent, you have had as your number one priority your goal to pass your faith on to your children or grandchildren. And you have done devos and taken them to church events and sent them to camps and sent them to Hope Youth Corps, and you've read the Bible at the dinner table, and you've, sang songs to them when they were little babies about Jesus, and you've done what you could to build, walls around your family and your home to protect yourselves from the outside world, theoretical walls. You've worked hard to do all this, and it's not been easy. So thank you. Thank you for all the effort and work you've put on to do this for your children or your grandchildren. But, in spite of your best efforts, we're faced with a huge problem in our world today. But don't worry, there is a solution also. So we're going to talk about that. Here's the problem. Netflix, TikTok, and Disney does not care about you or your Jesus. They don't care about your standards. They don't care about your Bible. And if you're over the age of 35, they don't even care about you. I think it's important for me to say this. I don't want to come across this afternoon. Is it the afternoon yet? Almost. In 2 minutes it'll be the afternoon. I don't want to come across this morning I'm the mad, angry, conservative Christian. I think a lot of Christians have wrongly stereotyped LGBTQ people. The truth is that most LGBTQ people in our communities and in our families are not activists. They're just regular people. They got mums and dads and brothers and sisters and jobs to go to and bills to pay and exams to write, and they just want to cut their grass and shovel their snow and be left alone. Right? That's most gay people. Most gay people they're not mad, they're not angry, they don't want to fight with you, they're reasonable people. That's most. But there is a very small, well-funded, well-organized activist world that fits the stereotype perfectly. And they have the largest corporations in the world on their side, and for them, cutesy time is over. These people aren't messing around. And they caught on to a way of thinking that really people who have wanted to be involved in revolution have known about forever. And that is this. If you want to change a culture, you do so by changing the youth, converting the youth. That's why they don't care about you if you're over the age of 30 or 35 here today. You're too far gone. Your set of beliefs and your values, they're cemented. But if you're between the ages of 5 and 30, or especially 5 and 25, you are wide open. And so Netflix, TikTok, and Disney and the like that's their audience. That's who they want to go after. And they don't care about your theoretical spiritual walls. They don't care about your church, all the work and effort. Thank you to all of you who serve in Kingdom Kids ministry. Thank you to all of you who have taught all those classes on Sundays. Thank you to those of you who are involved in teen and campus ministries. Thank you. You sacrifice. You've worked hard. It's been a huge effort. Thank you. It does make a difference, okay? You've done what you could in your families and in this local church. Your senior leadership, your eldership, wise spiritual people, you've worked hard to create these walls of protection around your families and around your church. But these people do not care. And they have a way of getting into our homes It doesn't matter how high your theoretical walls are. Due to the marvels of modern technology, they are in your home all over the place. That is one of the challenges that we're facing. To help you understand kind of what we're faced with, I'm going to show you this video. I'm always a little hesitant to show it because, I don't know, it's very, very extreme, but they're the one who did it, so it's their video. But this is a video of the San Francisco Gay Men's Choir. It came out a couple of years ago, and it got a lot of backlash from churches and Christian people, and they were like, "Oh, it was a joke," but it wasn't a joke. When you watch it, you'll think to yourself, that can't be real. That's not real. There's no way. That is a parody from Saturday Night Live. There's no way that's real. But this is real. I only show this because I think a lot of us, it's kind of like the frog in the boiling pot. We get so used to what we see and hear in social media, in our entertainment world, and what we're surrounded with. I think even we as Christians, kind of get used to so much that maybe our standards of personal righteousness or conviction on some pretty basic things kind of get softened, not because we're bad or evil-hearted people, but just because it's the culture and society we live in, and it's kind of again like we get into the pot that's not boiling, and all of a sudden it is, and we don't even realize it happened. So I showed this video only to maybe hopefully wake us up all a little bit and recognize, as I said, for the activist world, again, not your typical everyday LGBTQ people who live here, and we want to help these people become Christians, and we'll talk about that tomorrow, but I'm talking about the well-funded, well-organized activist world who has done a better job getting their message out than Jesus' church has had getting its message out. This is a video that they came out with a couple of years ago. This is not a joke.
As we celebrate Pride and the progress we've made over these past years, there's still work to be done. So to those of you out there who are still working against equal rights, we have a message for you. You think we're sinful? You fight against our rights. You say we all lead lives you can't respect. But you're just frightened. You think that we'll corrupt your kids if our agenda goes unchecked. Flooding justice once, you're correct. We'll convert your children. Happens bit by bit, quietly and subtly, and you will barely notice it. You can keep them from disco. What about San Francisco? Make them wear pleated pants, we don't care. We'll convert your children. We'll make them tolerant and fair.
At first, I didn't get why you'd be so scared of us turning your children into accepting, caring people, but I see now why you have a problem.
Just like you worried, they'll change their group of friends. We won't approve of where they go at night to protest. Lord, you'll be disgusted when they start finding things online that you've kept far from their sight.
Like information.
Guess what? You'll still be alright. We'll convert your children, yes we will.
Reaching one and off, there was really no escaping it.
Cause even grandma likes RuPaul.
And the world's getting higher. Gen Z's bigger than Grindr.
Learn to love, learn to blow, face your faith.
We'll convert your children. Someone's gotta teach them not to hate. We're coming for them. We're coming for your children.
I didn't have the energy to make you watch the whole thing. If that's not one of the creepiest things you've ever seen in your life, I don't know what is. Again, for these people, QT time is over. These people are not messing around, okay? We as Christian parents and Christian grandparents and as churches need to be people of tremendous amounts of prayer for God to protect our families and do what we can to take the challenge seriously. This is a YouTube channel that, as you see, last year got 60 million hits. They're called amaze.org. These are these are little videos, 3 to 4 minutes, specifically designed for 8 to 12-year-olds. Poppy music, funny little graphics, and they specialize in transgender, homosexuality, how to masturbate, oral sex, you name it. As I said, 60 million views of 8 to 12-year-olds. This is what is being advertised to our children. You can see the kind of impact this is having in our world today. This is of 2022, but you can see how over the years, the kind of impact this has been having on your culture. And this is why what we're dealing with in our church today is so important. That really is the problem that we're facing in our world today. So that's the problem. What's the solution? Well, fortunately, I do have some thoughts. I'm going to show you a picture of my parents. Now, both my parents have been gone for many years. My father passed away 30 years ago. My mother passed away about 7 or 8 years ago. I grew up in a quote-unquote Christian home. And when I was a kid, my parents would yank me off to church. And, I guess, most people would say my good Christian family, whatever that means. But, my dad was a really kind guy, real gentle man. But until it came to this issue, my dad had made it really clear how he felt about LGBTQ people. If we were using today's terminology, my father was absolutely homophobic. Couldn't stand gay people. I'm sure he'd never met one, or if he did, he wouldn't have known it, but very, very intolerant. Why do I say that? Because my father made that really clear in our home about people he disagreed with. And so I grew up with that. And so I was in quite a place then. Number one, when I was sexually molested by a man when I was 8 years old, that was something I didn't talk about until I was in my mid-30s. How was I going to tell my father that a man had just raped me? I didn't even have the words for it, but I knew that what had happened was wicked and awful, and I knew that my father, sure at the time I felt like I had done something wrong. But then at the age of 12, when my boyfriend Carl, who wasn't my boyfriend yet, but a kid that I played hockey with, and he suggested we try a few things, and we did, and all of a sudden here I am as an early teen, and all my friends are experiencing attraction to the opposite sex. I'm certainly experiencing something very different. Didn't know what to call it at the time, but I knew it was really bad, and certainly nobody at my church would have approved. So home was not a safe place for me to get perspective help. Neither was church. Church certainly wasn't going to be a safe place for me to get any help. So those were lonely years as a teenager, crying myself to sleep at 16 or 17 years old, unsure of what it was I had done to get this capability that everybody thought was so terrible. But, my dad, because of how he talked about gay people, made it really clear Dad was not a safe place to go. So my suggestion is be careful what you say about others in front of your children. Your kids are listening. And you want to create an environment where your children or grandchildren will feel like they can come and talk to you about anything. But when you malign, put down, make fun of the plight of others because you disagree, and we become all weirdly judgmental of people we disagree with, trans people, people who wanted to use different names and pronouns, and we say this stuff in front of our kids, you are not creating an environment where your children are going to feel like they've got a safe place to go to and get help. What do you say when little Johnny comes home at the age of 13 and says he's gay? Or what do you do when your grandchild announces that they're gay or trans? So I just have a couple of thoughts and suggestions here. The first thing you should say when your child comes home and announces something like this, and don't feel like because your kid hasn't announced that somehow you've dodged the bullet, because your kid's going to come home and announce something. If it wasn't that they're gay or trans, it's that they robbed a convenience store. I don't know, but something's going on, okay? Like, you're going to hear something. What do you do when your kid comes home and announces something like that. My suggestion is you don't say the very first thing you think. Because the very first thing you think, especially if it's on the LGBTQ side, for a lot of parents will be like, absolutely not. That's the phase you're going through. Not in this house. We're Christians. Go to your room. You're grounded until you're 30. Like, you know, you can't say the first thing you think. The first thing maybe you should say to your child or grandchild when they come home and make this kind of announcement is something like this. You come up with your own language, but it'd be something like, wow, okay. Well, son or grandson, thank you for telling me. That could not have been easy. So know this. There isn't anything you could say or do that would make me love you less. And I'm here for you. And we'll get through this together. Now, if you could give me and your mother maybe a couple hours just to digest this information, unravel it a little bit, and then we want to come back and talk. We want to hear your story. We want to hear what you're experiencing. We want to hear about your friends. We want to hear about what you're going through. We want to hear about why you've come to this conclusion. We want to hear it. We're wide open to that. We want to talk, and we want to listen. But you've known about this for several years, and we just found out 30 seconds ago. So if you could cut mom and dad a break, give grandma and grandpa a couple hours just to go think, pray, and collect ourselves, and then let's get back together and talk. Is that okay, honey? Hugs, kisses, we love you, da-da-da-da. Now you go somewhere where your kid can't hear you, maybe out in your car as you drive around the neighborhood, and you scream uncontrollably and bang your head against the steering wheel. That's when you lose it, okay? But you bring yourself back to be able to have conversation. That is what you want to do. And, you know, I feel for people who've gone through this. There are some people in this room where you just found out that your child is experiencing something LGBTQ, and you're not expecting it, and you feel like a bomb has gone off in the middle of your home. And you're wondering, how on earth am I going to put these pieces back together again? There are others of you who have children or grandchildren, maybe even into adulthood, where you have been navigating this for years. And no one will ever know the sleepless nights and the amount of tears that you have shed because of a broken heart, because you've been going through this. My heart goes out to you. Yeah, it really does. Here are some helpful steps for parents of gay or trans children. If your kid announces something like this, our advice is this: focus on your child's spirituality and your relationship with them, not what they say they're attracted to. Listen, in today's world, based on feelings, emotions, and TikTok, if some 13 or 14-year-old kid comes home and announces something like this, trust me, whatever they're saying they're attracted to now will change 5 times by the time they're 20 anyway, okay? Recent study has shown, this is from Cambridge University in England, that up to 91% of 13-year-olds who said they're trans changed their mind by the time they were 20. Up to 91% changed their mind, which is stunning. And why I say we've lost our frickin' minds in our world and culture today. They would be falling over ourselves trying to do hormone therapies and different surgeries for children. Listen, when I was 13, I thought I wanted to be a pirate. But my parents didn't chop off a leg and give me a peg leg, because they knew by the time I was 20, I probably wouldn't want to be a pirate anymore, okay? Up to 91% changed their mind. So when your kid comes home and announces something like this, focus on your child's spirituality and your relationship, well, not what they say they're attracted to. Because I'm going to say this: if it turns out that your child is genuinely, like seriously, same-sex attracted, like Guy Hammond same-sex attracted, or genuinely suffering a marked incongruence with their natal sex. Like it's the real deal, not a rapid onset gender dysphoria kind of situation because TikTok says it's cool and it's a way to be accepted at school. But I mean, they're really suffering with this. If it turns out that it's the real deal, I want you to know, parent and grandparent, it's going to be okay. There's no reason why your kid can't become a Christian and live an incredible, faithful, God-centered life that you wouldn't be incredibly proud of. Our children to our kids, if they do announce this, is this. There's a place for you in the church. We want our gay children who think they're gay. Listen, son, daughter, the most important thing you can do is become a Christian. Let's focus on that. There is a place. Our kids think it's this. LGBTQ in the church, no place. Can't mix. No, that's not it. We want them to think it's this. There is a place for LGBTQ people in the church. In fact, Jesus' church is not complete without them. We need them in the church. So that's why we want to focus on our relationship with them and their spirituality. The biggest problem your kid will have in life is not that they're gay or think they're trans. That is not going to be their biggest problem. Their biggest problem in life is that they don't have a relationship with Jesus. Now, that's a real problem. So this is what you need to focus on. The other thing I would say is this. Release yourself of blame. This is complex stuff. Attractions? Are you kidding? Who chooses their attractions? I never chose what I was attracted to. Now, I'm 100% responsible for what I do with my attractions. That I'm responsible for. But I didn't choose to be homosexually attracted. Who chooses such a thing? This is complex stuff. There's hundreds of contributing influences that determine what a person is attracted to. To rush to the assumption that somehow it's the parent's fault is way too simplistic. And when you see other people in church and you're like, did you hear that Mary Beth and Joe, their son has come out as gay? Oh my goodness, where did they go wrong as parents? I always knew something was wrong in that house. No, don't do that. It's way too simplistic, embarrassingly so, to think that somehow it's the parent's fault that the kid is gay or trans. Don't go there. It's not true. Are you perfect parents? No. You're not, but you're not the reason why your kid is gay or trans. And let me remind you of this. There was a time in world history when God only had 2 kids to worry about. Right? Adam and Eve. And he couldn't keep them straight either. Some of you got 3, 4, 5, 6 kids and grandkids to worry about. Good Lord! Holy Moses, you can't write this. It's not going to be easy. Release yourself of blame. Our other message is this. Take care of yourself. Take care of your marriage. Go on some walks. Get some sleep. Talk to your psychiatrist. Write in your journal. Take some naps, for pity's sakes. Like, go on a date with your husband. If there's ever a time that your child needs mom and dad to be unified and together, not fighting and arguing and slamming doors because I told you you were a distant mother and you weren't involved enough. Yeah, well, I told you this. And oh my gosh, that is not what your kid needs. Your kid needs mom and dad and grandparents to be unified and spiritual and praying and spending time in the Word and being a great example. That's what they need. And then be ready for the long game. If it's real, if they're truly, genuinely homosexually attracted or dealing with transgender feelings and emotions like they really are, get ready for the long game. This is not going to go away in weeks and months. This is going to be years and decades and maybe a lifetime. Get ready for the long game. When is the right age to talk to your children about sex and gender? Well, listen, it's your kid. You know. You're the expert. You decide. But let me just add this. If you think that the best time to talk to your kid about sex and gender is when they're 13, to tell them about the birds and the bees, you are out of touch. Because your kids are seeing stuff on Disney at the age of 5, okay, that needs some explanation. I wish things were all, like they were in the 50s, 60s, and 70s, and everything's innocent. Boy, that would have been lovely. It's a different world, man. You cannot be... I get it. Who wants to talk to your 7 or 8-year-old about sex and gender? That's not an easy conversation for most of us to have, but you've got to be willing to go there because everyone else is going there. So when is the right time? What is the right age? I don't know. It'll even change from child to child. You're the expert. But at least try this. Be the first. Don't let it be Netflix. Don't let it be Disney. Don't let it be your kid's teacher. or some kid in the schoolyard with an iPhone and showing them pornography. At least be the first. I don't know the right time, you do. You're the expert. But be the first. And then recognize this is several conversations. This is not a one and done kind of thing. These are several ongoing conversations you're having in your home as you're talking to your children. How do you respond when your child sees confusing pictures or is faced with a complex situation surrounding sex? I got a 4-step strategy for you. Number 1, recap and validate. Number 2, explain God's view. Number 3, explain free will. And then come up with an action plan. What do I mean? Listen, you're driving down the road. Johnny, he's 4 years old and he's in the back seat. And there's a Calvin Klein billboard with 2 dudes in their underwear lying on top of each other because they're trying to sell their underwear. You saw it. He saw it. I know you say, you want to go to McDonald's and you just want to speed up. Mommy will take you to the play, what do they call that thing? The play thing at McDonald's. Mike, you can tell my kids are in their 30s now. Okay. Listen, no, the kids just saw the ad. You got to say something. You can't just turn up the radio. So in an age-appropriate way, you've got to recap and validate. You've got to say, hey, son, did you see that picture of those 2 men in their underwear lying on top of each other? Yeah. You know what, honey? You know what that's called? That's called gay. And you're going to see a lot of that. But you know, sweetheart, we're going to explain God's view. It's not how God wants us to live. Mommy and Daddy don't believe in that. It's when 2 men and 2 women fall in love with each other the way Mommy and Daddy did. We don't believe in that. You'll see a lot of it, but we're going to explain free will. But you know what, sweetheart? People are free to live however they want, so we're going to be kind to everybody. We don't agree with it, but we're going to be kind. In fact, honey, the next door neighbors live like that, and Mommy and Daddy are trying to get to know them and be their friends so they can learn about Jesus. But, we're going to be friends with people, and then we're going to come up with an action plan so that when our kids see these things, they know how to deal with it. What do you do when little Susie comes home, 13 years old, and her best friend's got 2 mummies? That's confusing for the kid. Oh, your best friend has got 2 mummies? Wow, that would be confusing. How do you feel about that? I understand that would be confusing. Well, you know what, sweetheart? That is not how God wants us to live. God wants us to be a man and a woman in marriage. But free will, you're going to see this a lot. And certainly Susie's 2 mummies at school, they certainly have the right to live that way. You know what? Let's have them over. Let's get to know these people. Let's show them the love of Jesus. Let's be kind and respectful. And we're going to come up with an action plan now of how we're going to deal with this when things like this come along, like being hospitable and kind and welcoming people over. And we're going to pray for the 2 mummies that someday they'll be able to be in a relationship with Jesus. So we're going to recap and validate. We're going to explain God's view. We're going to explain free will. And we're going to come up with an action plan. You're sitting there and you're watching some Disney show, and you're sitting there doing something on your phone, and all of a sudden you got a gay situation in a Disney show, and 7-year-old little Bobby just watched it. I know you think, I'm just going to run out of the room and pretend I'm getting something, but Bobby just saw it, so you got to pause the TV. You got to say, did you see that? I know. Wasn't that confusing, those 2 people? Yeah, but that's not God's view. That's not our view as a family. We don't believe in that. It's not, but it's free will. You're going to see people live that way. We're going to come up with an action plan. It doesn't mean you got to spend all day talking about this. I'm just saying when opportunities arise, you got to step in and you got to act. And it can't be one conversation. Because, right, cutesy time is over. We're coming for them. We're coming for your children. Right? We're not messing around here. They're going to be bombarded with this stuff. So you've got to have an action plan to be able to address this stuff. Right? They're coming for your youth. That's right. That's how we change the culture in society. They don't care about youth over 30-year-old. It's the 5-year-old that they want. Right? Mission accomplished. That's what they're doing. I want to introduce you to Ellen Radcliffe. Ellen is on my team. Ellen is a licensed mental health counselor and a marriage and family therapist, and she specializes in sexuality and gender. And she's my chief operating officer. She runs my ministry for me. I spend my time traveling around the world speaking and writing. Ellen runs my support group system and does all the training for my staff. So she's my right-hand person. I'm going to show this video. It's about 5 minutes. That's a long video, okay? Every public speaker knows you never want to show a video more than about 45 seconds, because after 45 seconds, people start to tune out. So every public speaker knows, like on a Sunday, you never want to show, a minute and a half. You're like, whoa, most people, you've lost them. So I don't know if we're going to lose you, but if you're genuinely interested, listen to what Ellen has to say. She's a specialist. She knows what she's talking about. And she's going to talk about, how do I help my child who has opposite sex tendencies? What do you do when, your 5-year-old boy loves to wear dresses? And you're like, what do I do here? I don't want to overreact, but I'm a little concerned. That's what she's going to talk about. Okay, you with me? All right. See, that wasn't that bad, was it? Did it work? Not yet, huh? Well, let's do it like this then. Something's happening? Yeah, something's happening. I'm pressing buttons here.
Many parents experience a low-grade panic if their young child begins to show characteristics more typical of the opposite sex. For example, if a young boy likes to play dress-up in his mom's clothes or high heels and makeup, or a young girl expresses a desire to urinate standing up. If this is something that you're experiencing, there are a few things to keep in mind here. Kids are curious. Not only are kids curious, but they are not bound by the social norms and stigmas that we are. How freeing for them. We should be careful to cultivate and encourage our children's curiosity while implementing appropriate boundaries around it. It's good for kids to be curious. That's how God made them. We want them to be delightfully curious in life, always discovering in wonder. Though we may need to implement some boundaries around our children's curiosity, we should always do so in a way that doesn't create tension or shame around the object of their curiosity. Could this be a stereotype to confront? This may be a great opportunity for you to weigh your child's behavior or tendency against God's expectations around masculinity and femininity. It could have less to do with your child and more to do with your own distortion around socially constructed, rigid gender stereotypes. Do not create shame or tension. I spoke to a teenager once whose mother was convinced that she was gay because of some of her mannerisms and characteristics. Side note, mannerisms and characteristics do not make someone attracted to the same sex. When I asked this teen if she was attracted to other women, she said, I never have been, but honestly, because my mom keeps bringing it up, I figure I must be. Sometimes our own fear as parents can create so much tension that we implant experiences into our children's hearts. We need to make sure that we're handling our parental fear in a godly way, striving to see from God's perspective and responding to our children in love, so that we don't induce shame into their hearts simply because of our own fear, distortions, and imperfections. Set appropriate boundaries in love, not fear. If you determine that a boundary is needed around your child's curiosity or tendencies, then do so lovingly in a way that does not create shame or tension around the subject. My 5-year-old son recently noticed my pedicure and told me how much he loved my pretty toes. A few days later, staring at my red toes, he said to me, Mommy, when I get my toes painted, I want to get blue, okay? Now, something like this might have induced enough fear in me to respond with something like, What? No, you're a boy, and boys don't get their toes done. Only girls do. You don't want to be a girl, do you? Instead, in an effort to redirect the conversation, to buy myself some time to think about how to handle an official request for my son to paint his toenails, I said, Oh, you like blue better than red, huh? When my husband got home that night, we discussed how we would handle it if our son did make an official request to paint his toes. And we determined that for our son, this was not a matter of him having a desire to cross God's gender boundaries and present as a girl. This was an innocent, wonder-filled request from an uninformed child who genuinely liked my toenails and had not been warped by our culturally constructed gender norms. We both agreed that in that sense, we had no problem with him putting paint on his toenails. However, because we live in a culture in which painted toenails on a male could lead to certain assumptions about his gender identity, in an effort to be above reproach on this matter, we decided that we would not allow him to paint his toenails if he were to ever officially ask. Though our son has not yet made an official request for painted toenails, my husband and I have already worked out a response if he does. It goes something like this. You want to paint your toenails because mommy had hers painted and you really love them, right? That makes so much sense. But in our culture, Though it's not wrong to paint your toenails if you're a boy, it could be confusing to some people. So how about instead of painting your toenails, we put stickers on them? Now, you may choose to allow your son, for example, to paint his toenails. I don't think there's anything wrong with that. But I offer this as an example in how to think through boundaries that stem from love and not fear. It is possible. A client said to me once, "Oddly, I feel so relieved that you just said that," after I told her that it was possible that her 10-year-old son may experience persistent gender dysphoria into the future. She said, "Everyone else has assured me that it won't happen, that he'll grow out of it, but there's a part of me that knows that this could be a reality for my son in the future too. And ignoring that possibility doesn't take my fear away." Simply ignoring our fears and assuring ourselves that they are ridiculous and unfounded will do little to comfort us. In fact, ignoring our fears typically only elevates them. It is possible that your young child could experience gender dysphoria now or sometime in the future. There could be multiple reasons for this gender dysphoria, and there could be infinite ways of them expressing it. So seek to understand your child's experience, and don't assume that they're experiencing gender dysphoria just because they're doing or saying something that you don't personally understand. Studies have shown that up to 98% of young children with gender dysphoria will outgrow it by the time they reach adulthood. So allow this knowledge to soothe your fearful heart as you watch your child navigate the confusing world of gender expression in our current culture. As with all parts of their development, we can't expect our children to perfectly understand and execute some of the complex constructs of our world. Just as we would not expect our 2-year-old to run without stumbling or our 13-year-old to adhere perfectly to a budget, so we can't expect our young children to know exactly how to wield their masculinity or femininity. Gender expression is a process that evolves throughout development and beyond. Let's walk alongside our children as they discover the nuances of their masculinity or femininity, always pointing them to God's definition and expectations of masculinity and femininity, never the world's expectations.
One of the goals I think we need to have with our children when they reveal this kind of information to us is to keep the conversation going. That's really the goal. You know, this idea, we want to hear more, let's keep talking. We want to keep our children talking. Let me share with you some resources that you can access. Ellen, who you just saw, who, by the way, is a disciple in North Carolina, in Jacksonville, North Carolina, she just came out with this book. It's brand new, Love Covers Over, a guide for Christian parents raising kids in an LGBTQ plus world. The book just came out, fantastic resource. Avail yourself to that. You can get it at Amazon or whatever. But fantastic, fantastic book. And then there's these books that I think would be helpful. Doing Life with Your Adult Children, Keep Your Mouth Shut, and The Welcome Mat Out. Fantastic book if you're dealing with adult children who are living lives that you strongly disagree with. Maybe they're living with their boyfriend or girlfriend. Maybe they're whatever, any number of possibilities. They're no longer following Christ and they're making decisions that are making your head explode, but you want to be in relationship with your child. How do you do that? I get asked this question all the time. One of the most popular questions I get asked is, if my gay son, wants, if we're going to have his partner over, or are they allowed to sleep in our house, or, those kinds of things. How do we be in relationship with our children when they're, have crossed lines that we are strongly disagreeing with? And, I don't think it's a black and white thing. I think a lot of times we want to go to either black or white, but I feel like, there comes a time with our adult children, not our teens, but our adult children, where our relationship with them becomes more important than our point. Like, if you're dealing with your adult children, they know your point. You've stressed your point. You've had by now several conversations. They know what you believe. They know what the church believes. They know what the Bible believes. You've made your point ad nauseum to your 25 or 30 or 35-year-old kid. They know the point. I think there comes a time when your relationship with your child or grandchild becomes more important than your point. And where you need to say, you know, I am going to relinquish my child to the Lord. I'm going to pray like crazy, and then I'm going to love like crazy. And I'm going to stop, you know, using every opportunity like it's the proverbial nail and keep hammering my point home every time I see my kid or his partner. There comes a time when your point is no longer as important as your relationship with your child. If you're so intent on pushing your point that you're right and they're wrong, good luck with the relationship. They're not going to be around for them to hear you anymore anyway. So, just my thought on that. You know, How and When to Tell Your Kids About Sex. This is a fantastic book done by Stan and Brenda Jones. It actually covers several different age groups. And so if you're wondering how to talk to young children about these really complex and difficult things, that's a fantastic book. And then this book is great, especially for grandparents, The Tech-Wise Family, Everyday Steps for Putting Technology in its Proper Place. Fantastic book for understanding what your kids are experiencing when it comes to technology. Here's a challenge we're facing in our world today. These are Canadian statistics, but probably not too far off from what you're experiencing here in America. We send our kids to school, if you're not homeschooling, an average of 35 hours a week. And they sit there and they're taught in that environment. Then they come home and studies show us that our kids will spend another 35 hours a week on social media. Okay? And then they're going to watch another 21 hours watching videos on YouTube or on Netflix. That's a lot of time taken up with a consistent messaging that embraces everything that we disagree with. This is a consistent messaging, 35 hours a week, 35 hours in social media, and 21 hours watching videos, where they're going to be influenced by people and orthodoxies and ways of thinking that we as Christians are like, I don't think that at all. I don't even want my kids to have access to that. And yet, this is what's happening. And somehow, some Christian parents think that they can reverse this by sending our kids to a teen event once every other week for an hour to play volleyball or to have pizza with some Christians or to have a weekly Devo, if you remember to have it, and you think you're reversing this? Let me tell you something, folks. Again, thank you to the Kingdom Kids workers, the youth workers. Thank you to the teen and campus student workers. And thank you. God bless you. Thank you to the elders and the evangelists of this church who have worked so hard to support our youth and to teach them about God. Thank you. But parents, it's not the church's job to raise your kids. It's your job to raise your kids. The church alone cannot possibly turn this around. And so if you're not taking advantage of the opportunities and being really engaged, remember, we're coming for them. Remember? You got to be engaged. You got to be willing to have these conversations. You know, Elon Musk recognizes that I made this slide long before you started all fighting with each other about politics, so I'm not saying any comments here. But he says that Twitter or X is the most important place in the world for conversation. No, I don't think so. Do you know where the most important place is for conversation? Yeah, it's at the dinner table. You're thinking, dinner table? Are you crazy? I got this kid in band, this kid in swimming, this kid in this kid in that. Dinner table? We're lucky if we have one night a week when we all sit. Great. Then you have conversation in the car, going from point A to point B. You have conversation when you're out and around with them. You turn down the radio. You ask them questions. You keep them open. You listen. You respond appropriately. Like, that's what's got to happen. Otherwise, you're never going to have these opportunities to be able to talk to your kids and your grandkids. You know, last year I was speaking in Iowa. I was in, what city was I in? It wasn't Des Moines. There's another big city in Iowa. I think they only got 2 cities in Iowa. Iowa City. No, it begins with a C. What's this? Yeah. Oh my gosh, you guys really know your Iowa cities. Yeah. Okay, I was in Iowa. I was teaching at a Christian church event. And so when we were done, they were too cheap to take me out for dinner, so I was on my own. Kind of like here. No, I'm teasing. You know, bless this couple's heart. They have worked so hard to have me over for dinner. Dwight, thank you for the constant invitations. I think we're going to have breakfast tomorrow, right? Are you buying? Yes. Okay, I don't want the drive-thru, okay? Yeah, it better not be someplace where I have to color the menus, okay? I want you to take me somewhere nice, okay? So, anyway, I was in Iowa, and I'm sitting in a Texas Roadhouse. And so I'm sitting there eating the dinner by myself. Normally I use that as an opportunity to call my wife, talk to her a little bit, tell me how the day went, or call one of my kids. So I'm sitting there, and I recognized there was a family beside me, and they got my attention because this family sat there. Now this is the real picture. I hope if anybody knows these people in Iowa, I apologize, okay? But I recognize the chances of you knowing these people. But that's really the family. That's them. I was sitting at my table. And I was like this, eating, and I wanted to take a picture of them. So I was kind of like, right? They didn't know. But I took this picture because that's all they did the entire time. They didn't talk except for pass the salt and pepper or give me some ketchup. The entire time, look at every person in the family is on their phone. Every single one. No conversation. That wasn't like, for the first few minutes. That was the entire dinner. And I was like, wow, look at what is happening right in front of me. God, what are you doing? They're right there in front of you. Put those stupid things down and talk to them, right? Don't do this, folks. Take advantage of the opportunities you get. Make opportunities. Talk to your kids. Have conversation, and don't let it be just about stupid stuff. Ask some serious questions. Have serious conversation. You know, my wife, I'm married to a lovely woman, Laura. Laura and I have been married for it's 5 years. Fantastic woman. Love her so much. But before Laura, I'd been married to another woman. Her name was Kathy. Kathy and I were married for 28 years. Now you, I hope, would appreciate what a miracle it is that I would have a wife, considering who I just told you I am. Or what a miracle it is that I've had 2 wives. I'm not even attracted to women, and I'm on my second wife. I mean, that's, if you've ever doubted the power of God, like, that's it. Kathy and I were married for 28 years, best friends. Oh my gosh, I love that woman. And we raised a family with 4 children. And so grateful to God for him giving her to me. But Kathy passed away. She died of brain cancer in the fall of 2025. Or sorry, she died of brain cancer in the fall of 2018. And miss her terribly. Anyway, just before she died, she was very intent on me getting married again. So just before she died, she called me into the hospital room. She says, honey, will you please promise me you'll get married again? I was like, wasn't it a miracle enough that I found one wife? Who else is going to live with this, you know? Anyway, she was so intent that when I went back to the hospital the next day, she'd written out a list of pre-approved names. Yeah. The very first name on the list was the woman I married, Laura. And so Kathy gave me permission to marry Laura, and so grateful for that. Anyway, this is my son Wyatt, one of my 4 children. When Wyatt was 18, I was leading the church in Halifax, Canada. And he came to me, I was 17, I think. He came up to me one Sunday morning, we're getting ready for church. Of course, I'm the preacher. He says, Dad, do I got to go to church? I was like, well, yeah, I mean, what do you mean? He goes, I don't want to go anymore. I said, what do you mean anymore? He said, I don't want to go to church anymore. I'm bored. Like, don't want to get your feelings hurt. I know you're the preacher, but I'm bored silly. Like, I just don't want to go. I was like, well, son, you're almost 18 years old. I'm not going to make you go to church if you don't want to go. Of course, I want you to, but he goes, yeah, I don't want to go. I said, all right, well, you don't have to go. So he stopped completely. It was Kathy's dream when she found out she was dying to see Wyatt become a Christian before she passed away. So we asked him if he would study the Bible with us. He's now, by then he was in his, he was 25. And we tried to study the Bible a couple times, but it was like trying to fit a square peg into a round hole. Like we knew we were just doing this so that Kathy could see him get baptized before she died. And it was like, even she didn't want that. She was like, this is not working. We said, never mind, son. Obviously you're not interested. When Kathy died, he started to travel. He lived in Spain for a while. He went to Thailand. He lived in Malta. He kind of spread his wings and off he went. When he came home, I could tell he was not doing well. He had been making a lot of decisions that I was very alarmed at. He wasn't out robbing convenience stores or anything, but I mean, a lot of girls, a lot of pot, just, a lot of drinking. I'm like, son, going down the wrong path, my friend. And so this was taken Christmas Day. This is by my house where I live. It's a lake by my house. So I thought on that day, I guess it wasn't Christmas. This was in January. We do Christmas at a different time than you do in Canada. He was home give me a break, he was home for the Christmas holidays. You guys are so critical in this church. Okay. So on this very walk, we're walking and I'm trying to take advantage of the opportunity. I said, hey son, hey listen, I know it's been a long time since we talked about this, but do you have any interest in, re-engaging with God and do you think about Jesus, salvation? Like, do you have any interest in maybe studying the Bible again, seeing if you'd like to become a Christian? I don't know, what do you think about that? We're walking across this lake and he says, Dad, you're a good guy. I love you, Dad. I know what you're trying. Dad, I'm not interested. In fact, I think I'm an atheist. I don't even believe there's a God. So thanks, but yeah, no. I'm like, all right. So I'm in it for the long game, right? Remember, we're in this for the long game. This is good. This is good. And I thought, okay, my wife didn't get to see her son become a Christian. I may not live to see it. It may take decades before he gives his life to the Lord, and I need to be fine with that. So I'm going to pray like crazy and love like crazy, right? I've already made my point. My relationship is more important than the point. So I'm going to love like crazy and pray like crazy. And then 2 years later, in 2022, in our community, he was out also in January during a snowstorm. And this is how he tells the story. So he was walking. He's walking through the snowstorm. He's thinking to himself, he thought, oh man, my life is a mess. He thought to himself, if I could start over again, man, I would do things so differently. Then he says he had this thought, kid you not. If there was only a way for a person to be born again. He's not the smartest kid I have, but anyway, there's only a way for a person to be born again. I would take that. Then he says he stopped and he thought, I've heard that term my whole life. I thought, okay. So he contacted one of my good friends who's a faithful disciple, great Christian man. He contacted him. His name's Neil. He said, hey, Neil, listen, I got a question for you, but you got to promise me not to tell my dad. I said, okay. He said, would you study the Bible with me and help me figure this out? But my dad can't know because he'll get all weird. I don't want it. So in January of 2022, all the way through April, he silently, secretly studied the Bible. I had no idea. In April, he calls me and he said, hey, Dad, we have to talk. Okay. We have to talk in person. That's never good. Why? Can't you just tell me over the phone? Like, what are you going to tell me in person? No, I thought for sure, oh, he's got somebody pregnant. He's getting arrested. I don't know. What are we talking about? Like, what are we doing here? So we get together, and he said, hey, Dad, and he tells me the story. Walking in the snow, if there's only a way for a person to be born again, I decided to reach out to Neil. I've been secretly studying the Bible since January. Sorry I didn't tell you, but I didn't want you to get weird on me. and I want you to know I'm getting baptized on Sunday. Like, what? Of course, on the inside, or on the outside, I was looking cool. Like, of course, on the inside, my head was exploding. I couldn't believe I was hearing this. I was like, and he says to me, he goes, so Dad, part of my repentance is I have some people to forgive. I said, oh yeah, because some people have really hurt me over the years, and I need to talk to them about it so I can reconcile, and I need to forgive. I said, oh son, that's a great idea. Because yeah, well, one of the people is you. I'm like, oh. So then he spills the beans, tells me all the ways I've hurt him as a dad, everything else. Very short conversation. And of course, I'm like, son, I'm so sorry. Please forgive your dad. I love you, son. And da-da-da-da-da. We hugged. It was a beautiful thing. And yeah. That was on the same lake we were walking on 2 years earlier. And as you could tell, it was really cold that day. And I had no intentions of getting in that water. So I said to the guys who studied the Bible with him, you go in. I'll just say hallelujah from the shore. I was like, I'm not getting in that water. Wyatt today is a faithful Christian man, loves the Lord, loves the Bible, loves talking about Jesus, is sharing his faith constantly, has many friends in the community that he's reaching out to. Deep, faithful, mature Christian young man. I can't believe it's my son. Why do I tell you that story? In this room is represented lots of kids, sons, daughters, grandsons, granddaughters, and many of them are going down paths that give you much reason for alarm and concern. I know it breaks your heart. I know you're concerned. I don't have a crystal ball. I don't know if I got 4 kids. I got one that's going this direction right now. I don't know if you're gonna have an experience like I've been able to experience with Wyatt, whether they're gonna have that moment in the snow when they realize they've got to be born again. I don't know. That may or may not happen. I don't have a crystal ball. I can't promise you anything. But I do know this. There's nothing more powerful than the prayers of a mother. Nothing more powerful than the prayers of a grandmother. Nothing more powerful than the prayers of a father or a grandfather. You lean in on the love. Lean in on the love and pray like crazy. And you pray for the Holy Spirit to work and maneuver his way through their hearts and their lives to bring them to a point that one day they will see their need for Christ. And you may not live to see it. You may be praying for grandchildren right now you don't even have. But they're coming, and you're praying for them. Praying for the Holy Spirit to work in their lives that someday. Life is long, folks. Don't panic. You're not in a rush. Let your kids live their lives. You can't create the end of the story for your children. They've got to do it. Let them live their lives. And while they do it, you love, you serve, you pray like crazy. That is the path forward to being able to help our children see their need for Jesus. You're not alone. If you're trying to work through some of this stuff, especially from the LGBTQ side, we're here for you. We run a series of support groups for Christian parents. We have a podcast, Strength and Weakness podcast. We cover all this kind of stuff. Go to wherever you normally listen to podcasts, and you'll be able to hear so much information that you'll be like, I can't believe we're talking about this in the church. Holy Moses, this is unbelievable. But really helpful and useful and pragmatic information to help on the LGBTQ issue, but also just on parenting. You're going to hear so much there. Strength and Weakness podcast. Thank you for having me. Again, I just want to express my appreciation for your kindness. Yeah, thank you. I really thank your senior leadership, your eldership, the powers that be for having the courage to have me here this weekend. I really look forward for us to being together tomorrow. We're going to talk in a very pragmatic and straightforward way on how to share our faith with LGBTQ people, and even share stories from my life of how I became a Christian and stayed faithful all these years. And then tonight, of course, we're getting with teens and campus students, so we're looking forward to that. also. Guys, thanks very much. Amen.